Folks, people assume that the powers at be would wash away the Tsaritsa's crimes, would show her in a new, more reasonable light as we head into Snezhnaya, but this book that just came out, A Brief History of the Pale Starborn, makes it clear that the Tsaritsa's past transgressions weren't mistakes to be forgiven. They were warnings being ignored. Folks, she's a monster. Beneath that icy facade, there's no misunderstood ruler, just a long record of choices made without remorse. She's a ruler who learned early that cruelty could be mistaken for strength. She built a terror state named the Fatui and called it order. We learn she sent her soldiers against free cities, crushed independent rule, and annexed lands at gunpoint. Princes were stripped, exiled, or killed. Clans vanished. Authority was replaced with obedience. The Tsaritsa doesn't rule by consent. She rules by fear, paperwork, and uniforms. She demands names instead of surrender, silence instead of loyalty, and calls it mercy when the killing stops. How ironic is it that the one trying to seemingly unify the world of Teyvat against one common enemy rules her people through domination. And it's time this truth come to light, and so it's time to read! Oh no, we love reading! Ooh, reading! Interesting book this was, man. Not only does it tell us how the Belyi Tsar rose to power and took control of the continents, it also tells us how the Tsaritsa did the same after his death. Folks, these people are killers. Anyway, before this story time, I do want to give, like, an index, because a lot of characters' names gets dropped, and it can be a bit of a confusing who's who. I'm still going to recap the story after we read it, but, you know, this is always useful, so, real quick. Emperor Monomakwa Snezhny is the Belyi Tsar, the first cryo-archon. The Blood Devourer, King Mstislav, was king of the Volkodolok. They're just a group of people. The Grey Wolf Grand Duke Saraviki is one said to be a member of the Volkodolok, belonging specifically to the Crimea clan. Karakma clan. The Deepwood Bull Grand Duke... There's more consonants than vowels in this name. Skuldracht was a member of the Volkodolok belonging to the... Mihamgarthir clan, meaning he had a cow appearance, fat fuck. The Lackland Grand Duke Vodyanoi is ruler of the Dalegrad, which are just like a clan of water imps. And finally, Anastasia Fyodora is the Tsaritsa who took over after the death of the Belyi Tsar. So, with that said, folks, grab a drink, grab a snack, set the AC to something comfortable like 27 degrees Fahrenheit, cause it's story time! In the third year of the 428th cycle, that is, the 76th year after Emperor Monomakwa Snezhny raised the imperial capital upon the frozen earth, the emperor dispatched envoys unto the fiefs of the villa, and said unto them, "To whom do you offer tribute?" They answered, "Unto King Mstislav." And the imperial emissary said unto them, "Do so no longer, for they demand unlovely tributes." And the villa did cease their tithings. The fourth year of the 428th cycle, the fifth year of the 428th cycle. In the sixth year of the 428th cycle, King Mstislav spoke to his people, his kin, and his confederates, accusing the Pale Star court of breaking the standing peace agreement. He demanded that the emperor pay tribute for 10 years, the grain of 600 granaries, and gold to fill 30 storehouses, and sufficient slaves to transport such bounty. This was 30 times the amount that had been demanded of the villa. The emperor rejected this ultimatum, and both sides prepared for war thereafter. The emperor said, "To sacrifice ourselves for the homeland is honorable. Let our comrades in this be our swords and our love. Our enemies proclaim peace, for they wish to stir up war. Should we shamefully give in to them, our sons and daughters shall face war greater still. Thus, let us fight bravely for our survival. Let us taste the honeyed wine of victory, or let us make ourselves a glorious oblation." In the 7th year of the 428th cycle, King Mstislav launched an assault upon Kitezh at the head of a great host. The Mstislavi clans marched with him, and so did the people of Niangalathir, Dalegrad, Sinaraka, and their numerous servants. 3 times the armies clashed at Kitez in the foothills of the frozen lake and on the plains, the emperor slew King Mstislav and many princes who followed him. Grand Duke Saraviki was fortunate to escape with his life, but both Grand Dukes Sklikadir and Voldyana were pierced by the emperor's spear and slain. In his mercy and love, the emperor sought their bodies out and had them returned to the clans for burial. The emperor said thus, "They were not kings nor born of sacred blood. Never were they meant for rulership, yet heir to the Pale Star and protector of all Fae am I." Thus did the remaining clans of the Fae seek an audience with him, and thus did he gain the authority to govern them. From that day forth, he named himself the Belyi Tsar. Kitez was the first city in all of Snezhnaya. The imperial capital was built after the custom of the Fae ancestors, remaining the center of power over the frozen lands from the 4th year of the 417th cycle, that is, the year of its founding, until His Majesty the Emperor, in his boundless mercy and grace, pardoned humanity and gave them membership in his realm, moving his seat to Snezhnograd. Mstislav, known in the Volkov Chronicles as the Blood Devourer, the great ruler of all the Volkodok, the wise blood drinker, the master of the Mstislavi alliance. According to the Volkodok under his command, King Mstislav was a hulking figure, standing out even upon great battlefields like a mighty mountain. As such, he was also known by Fae chroniclers as Gori Nisha, or Son of the Mountain. The term lovely, as pointed out in the theory of Fae language, can also be translated in our modern context as beneficial, lovable, or endearing. It should be evident that these words meant rather similar things in those days. The meaning of the Emperor's envoy's words, therefore, should be understood to mean their demand for tributes is undesirable to you. Some scholars have as such interpreted the envoy's words as a veiled threat. For more relevant information, as well as the precise semantic scope of this term, please refer to the discussion found within the theory of Fae language. Even to the eye of later generations, Mstislavi, the realm established by the wise amongst the Volkodok, was entirely preposterous in its accusations against the Pale Star's royal court. Yet the accusations were not wholly unreasoned, or rather, King Mstislav, king of the Volkodok, whose kingdom bore his name, sought to provoke war for a truer purpose, that is, his fear of the Pale Star's court's rise since the previous conflict. Under Emperor Monomakwa, the alliance centered around Kitsdigrad developed an entirely new character over the course of the century. It rapidly advanced both in economy and governmental structure. To allow Emperor Monomakwa to gain the upper hand in this tug of war was anathema to King Mstislav. Thus began the war that would ultimately shape the destiny of this continent, shrouded in silver snow. The Niam Garthatir were Volkodok of bovine aspect. The Dalegrad were a clan of water imps. The Kremaric or Volkodok with wolf-like appearances, primarily military retainers. King Mstislav took personal command in these 3 large-scale battles against the Emperor. Legend has it that, driven by despair in that final battle, he sought to use the power of the Shadow Realm to delay the advance of the Pale Star Court's forces. Though this measure failed to turn the tide, it did have an impact on the Emperor's future decisions. Please refer to a history of the Snezhny expedition for detailed records of said 3 battles. It is worth noting that out on the flank, the Shepkek Legion had received orders from King Mstislav to pursue and prevent Imperial forces from uniting, yet they were mysteriously misled by the icy fog that day. Misjudging their routes of advance, they missed their opportunity to strike and could not prevent the Imperial forces from linking up. This ultimately caused the defeat of Mstislav's forces in a head-on clash. This incident has been recorded by many great historians, but the cause of the sudden shift in weather remains unknown. King Mstislav was eventually slain when the Emperor's spear pierced through his head. It is said that the bear-shaped skull, large as a chariot, now housed in the Zapolyarny Palace treasury, still bears the marks left by that spear. Saraviki, the Grey Wolf, so the Volkov Chronicles record, ruler of a cunning wolf known for his agility, said to have engaged in clandestine dealings early in the war with Porphyry, the minister then in charge of the Pale Star's finances. Following the fall of King Mstislav's rule, he was the sole Fae Grand Duke to slip in immediately and effortlessly into the ranks of the ministers in the Pale Star's royal court. As such, some scholars believe that the failure of the Shekpekan Legion under his command to pursue battle at a critical moment was no mere accident, though this hypothesis cannot be considered supported by sufficient evidence. After the war, he was honored by Emperor Mana Makwa, then already known as the Belyi Tsar, with the ceremonial tap of the long sword on his shoulder. Skuld Diarkdart, known as the Deepwood Bull in the Volkov Chronicles, Grand Duke of Nyanglarkatir under Mishkislav's command. During the second campaign, he proposed leading an elite vanguard to circle around to the rear of the Pale Starborn's forces. He planned to launch a surprise attack and force them into an ambush zone, while the main army would encircle said zone and strike. However, intelligence regarding this strategy was seized by a Fey who had infiltrated King Mskislav's army. Fliplov, loyal to His Majesty the Emperor and most skilled in transformation techniques, the Emperor adjusted his plans accordingly. Grand Duke Sklarkar's surprise attack ironically led him to become deeply encircled by the Pale Star's royal army. The Pale Star forces entrapped his, all the while destroying any and arriving relief columns, causing King Mskislav's forces to suffer a catastrophic defeat in the second battle. The Grand Duke was then slain in this battle when His Majesty the Emperor's spear pierced his chest. Vodyanoi, given the appellation the Lackland by the Volkov Chronicles, ruler of Dalegrod, forebear of all waterborn in the frozen lake, a warrior of unparalleled valor, yet a brute like no other, skilled in launching surprise attacks from beneath the ice. Towards the end of the second campaign, the Grand Duke of the Domovoy, Alvis, lured his legions beyond the frozen lake through cunning strategy, killed when the Emperor's spear pierced his chest. The Emperor's Spear. Those unfamiliar with the battlefield often question many descriptions in the battle accounts, including the records of him wielding it to slay the enemy commanders as the two armies fought it out. Most skeptics typically argue that given the size of the armies and the commanders' positions within their formations, it would have been almost impossible for the commanders to engage in direct combat amidst the chaotic melee. The following must be clarified. The Emperor's feat of piercing the enemy commanders with his spear did not occur as a result of a direct engagement. Rather, the spear was used as an arrow launched with force unimaginable by common knowledge, piercing through the battlefield. A sacred bloodline, the meaning of which is unknown, Emperor Mana Makwa laid claim to the title Lord of all Fey, and as such, he should have been of the same blood as the other fairies. It would seem that he merely used phrase as a means to establish legitimacy. The first year of the 799th cycle, in the 4th month of this year, Anastasia Fyodora was crowned Tsarista of all Snezhnaya. Many of the Fey princes did not come unto Snezhnogrod to seek an audience with her. The Dalegrod clan broke ties with Snezhnogrod, for Emperor Mana Makwa had passed away. In the second year of the 799th cycle, the humans of Port Belovadai, taking advantage of Emperor Mana Makwa's demise, declared self-governance in the winter, rebelling against the Fey princes. Grand Duke Drevagore launched an assault against them, but failed to secure victory. In the third year of the 799th cycle, Tsarista Anastasia deployed troops to attack the forces of the independent governments occupying the territory of the Drevagori, Volkovin, and Gagarkada clans along the way. Charging them with negligence and condoning rebellion, their princely titles as rulers of these territories were revoked, their positions taken over by non-hereditary officials. Unlike Emperor Mana Makwa, she did not muster the Druzhna, but rather established a force known as the Fatui. It was they who conquered the lands of the Fey princes. Grand Duke Drevogore accused the Tsarista herself of treason and met the Fatui with his own forces, and there he perished. On the 10th day of the 3rd month, the Tsarista dispatched envoys to Port Belovadai. They calmed the separatist forces and requested that they hand over the instigators of the rebellion, promising amnesty to all others. The request was accepted, and thus did the port escape being leveled. On the 23rd day of that same month, she then sent emissaries to all the Fey princes who did not come to seek an audience with her. She demanded that they hand over their authority, promising that they would retain their honorary titles as aristocracy. Many would pass on before they could make their replies, and those who remained acceded. Thus did Tsaritsa Anastasia take control of the north. In the 4th year of the 799th cycle, the Tsaritsa bade the Fatui build a new fortress near Snezhnogrod. Its name would be Glupov, meaning the city of fools, in the 5th year of the 799th cycle. In the 6th year of the 799th cycle, the Tsaritsa established the Snezhnogrod Veche to handle the administrative issues caused by the absence of the various princes. The human Ayana Ivanova was appointed its first chairperson. In the 7th year of the 799th cycle, the Imperial Order Reformation Edict was published. A great many princely fae, deeply grateful for the Tsaritsa's mercy and virtue, voluntarily forsook their noble titles and departed Snezhnaya. Quite the pairing, the Tsar and the Tsaritsa, huh? Anyway, if you didn't get all that, this is pretty much just the short version of it. One day, a feller named Emperor Monomakwa, who belonged to the Pale Star Court, raised the imperial capital of Kitez, which was the first city in all Snezhnaya. 76 years after raising this city, he asked the nearby people to whom do they offer their tribute to. They said to a feller named King Miskislav, who was king of the Volkdalok and was said to be a giant dude. He ruled in a region named Miskislavi, and Monomakwa told the people to stop giving that nigga stuff, so they said, okay. This naturally upset King Miskislav, who in turn demanded Monomakwa give him 10 years worth of tributes. Monomakwa said, miss me with that bullshit, and war broke out. However, this war was started under false pretenses. In truth, King Miskislav had been wary of Monomakwa's quick rise to power and felt it threatened him and his people. Regardless, war would break out, and Monomakwa went nuts, man. He killed Miskislav. He killed 2 Grand Dukes, Skil Dorkalov and Vodyanoi, and this pretty much ended the war immediately. And it was from there on out, Monomakwa became known as the Belyi Tsar. Fun fact, Miskislav's skull is in Zapolyarny Palace. Further fun fact, Monomakwa killed Miskislav by spearing him through the head, but he used the spear as an arrow. We learn following Monomakwa raising Kitez, he let humanity into the city while moving his own seat to Snezhnogrod. We also learn that despite the Belyi Tsar constantly claiming to be Lord of the Fae, he has absolutely no relation to the Fae and just says it to sound tough and legit. Following Monomakwa's death, all the Dalegrod clans would break. Again, the Dalegrod clans are just fucking water imps. I guess they live beneath the ice or some fucking weird shit. Anyway, they'd break away from Snezhnaya, and Anastasia would be crowned Tsaritsa. Following the Belyi Tsar's death, some humans over by Port Belavadai would declare themselves free people and now start an independent government. The Tsaritsa took note of this, called it rebellion, but rather than use the same fighting force the Belyi Tsar used, that being the Druzna, she would instead create her own force called the Fatui, who went in and conquered the nearby lands. One duke who called her actions treason would meet death in battle. With regards to Port Belavadai, the Tsaritsa sent forces to retrieve the instigators in this so-called rebellion, offering the people 2 choices. Hand over those responsible, or watch as the land be destroyed. The people chose to hand over the leaders, and with this, the Tsaritsa took control of the entire north. Later, the Tsaritsa would see it done that the Fae princes who did not meet with her would have their authority stripped, because I don't know, fuck it, bro. The Tsaritsa would then establish a Fatui stronghold named Glupov near Snezhnogrod, and finally, the Tsaritsa would establish a sort of governmental body that would, follow the absence of all the fucking Fae princes, and the first head of this body would be Ivanova, the mage of the Hexen Circle named Jay. Swell young lady, the Tsaritsa and this Belyi Tsar, huh? Dynamic duo, some would argue.